Hi everyone, I'm Luke Hector and this is the Broken Meeple, a show where I devote my time to ranting and raving about board games, but usually more the ranting part. We're continuing my series of the South Tigris expansions. We've already done Wayfarers of the South Tigris, so now we're going to move on to the second in the trilogy, Scholars of the South Tigris and Body of Books. Now, out of all the three, Scholars was my least favourite of the trilogy. However, that is like comparing my three favourite flavors of ice cream. I don't know why I keep coming back to ice cream analogies, but you know, it's like, here's your mint ice cream, here's your salted caramel ice cream, and here's your Cornish vanilla ice cream. It's like, this one would probably be Cornish vanilla ice cream. I still love it. If you give me a ice cream of Cornish vanilla, I'm gonna love you for it, but you know, it's like comparing like three things you love to bits. It's not like it being third in the series is a detriment to the game, and if anything, maybe it's actually getting better over time, we shall see. But this one is the one where you are basically translating scripts. You know, you've got the different language scripts and you have to hire translators that speak the language and use other people's translators, so it's quite an interactive game in a way. But Body of Books is seeking to probably add the most content out of all three of these expansions to the game. I mean, Wayfarers had a few bits in it, Inventors doesn't add a great deal, this one is adding quite a bit. So just what exactly is in this thing?
This is light.
Now this may not look like a huge amount of content here, but trust me, the impact is bigger than the size of the components. You now have this new extension board. It features two main aspects. Pages, which is a new mechanic in this game which functioned similar to retired translators, and a new research track, the medicine track, effectively the black track. This one ties into the pages but also ties into another little sub-mechanic. So firstly, players now have a new action card, so this one allows you to get the bonus for getting income off the medicine track, so, you know, standard of issue there. But there's a bit of a change with their setup, because now you start with a starting page. This one effectively boosts your recruit action. If you use black dice, it makes it better. But this is a starting one, and it goes underneath your player board just like a retired translator. So that's the primary use of these. You now also then have, and it probably would be easier if I get a player board to kind of showcase this. Here we go. So we'll bring that back eventually. You now have this tile down below. Now this tells you the costs for putting retired translators down in the same column, but it replaces the original rule as to how it works. But you effectively place it, you know, below your little space like that. And your starting page will be below your recruit like this, so that goes down there. And then what you've got is you've got these four tiles. I'm not going to care too much about the order. Well, conveniently I've got them in the right order, but these go alongside your tile like this. And the idea is every time you upgrade like a retired translator or a page down and it's in the same column as something else, it's giving you a revised cost for how it works. You can now intermingle white dice and silver in order to do it, makes it a bit easier to handle. But the main aspect is that when you now fill up a row with one of each of the cards in each of the four actions, you now basically flip the top tile over for points and get the bonus on top, which lets you get an upgraded action card. You can also do it off the research track, we'll get onto those in a minute, and some other cool bonus. But it also moves this tile down so that effectively it cheapens the cost of upgrading stuff in the same column again, which is a neat little thing. And then you can rinse, repeat, and do it all four times. What this basically has the effect of doing is that it gives you more incentive to do the whole retired translator thing, because this expansion, as I will get onto, is going to make it a lot easier to do that, but it makes the cost of doing it a bit more easier to micromanage. So this is kind of like the little bit of setup in the game. So let's get on to the two main things. You've now got black dice and you've now got experience tokens. The black dice work primarily with the medicine track and getting pages. The black experience is a currency used to buy the pages in question. So what exactly are these rotten pages? Well, these pages come off this deck, which is quite substantial. I mean, there's a lot of cards here. You know, they may be silly, but there's a lot of them. And effectively, this board will have various pages on there. Red for stuff that works like retired translators, and yellow, which gives you a bonus at the end of the game when you're doing in-game scoring. But they will have a cost of experience at the top, which can decrease if you have, one left over in a row, because it's done like a two-page book, basically. And the medicine track, which is very good at getting you experience, cheaper pages, or getting you upgraded action cards. We'll get onto those cards, don't worry. And the idea is that when you have the opportunity to buy a page, if you have the experience tokens, then you can spend them, take the page, and stick it underneath your board like a retired translator. And you'll get the ability or the endgame bonus and the points, as such. but they're specific to actual action. So if I take the yellow ones, they don't care, they can go anywhere. But the red ones usually want to go below recruit or translate or the research one, you know, they've got their specific requirements. But again, these do cool things. They're not any more powerful, I would say, than the ones that you get from retiring a translator. They're just more ways that you can do it. And you know, you can get these pages even easier with the translate action now, because as well as being able to do a translate like you normally did, you can now use a translate with the bottom ability here if you use a black color die, or black coloring as part of it. And you do get, you know, you get black dice, you don't get black workers, okay? So it's just the dice. But the black die kind of oversees everything. Like whatever you do to the action, if there's a black die in it, it will be a black action. You can't stop it. And the idea is that you'll gain experience if you do it with translate, but you get to, you know, muck around with the gold on, you have to pay translators while you're doing this, but this allows you to get the pages as part of the translate action. So now the translate action effectively has two things you can do with it. So even if there's not many scrolls in those palaces of wisdom that you normally like put the scrolls from, the game won't stagnate, you know, for you as like, oh, what options have I got? Because now you can go get these pages.
See, there's two sides to every Schwartz.
These pages, combined with the new setup for these tokens and your retired translator tiles, do one massive thing to the game that I love to bits. It makes your board infinitely more customizable than it used to be. Scholars was more of a restrictive game in terms of, right, it's the progression from A to B. Yes, there's the interactive element. Yes, you can get the retired translators and tailor your system a little bit, but there was a limit to how much you could do that. This opens that up insanely, because now your board, instead of just having about, like, oh yeah, I got about 3 translators as the game went on, and I put them in those, and that one didn't have any in that. Now it is perfectly feasible to have a strategy where you try to get all 4 of these bonus tiles for their points and their bonuses. That would require you to get 16 different pages and or retired translators below your board. And it is doable if you focus on that. And you're going to have to focus if you want 16. But even if you don't focus on them, and I've played, you know, not only solo games of this, but I also played a multiplayer game of this where I didn't focus that much on the pages. You know, I got a couple, but I was doing other things. I still ended up with a situation where I had a good 10 or so, 10 things below my board, and it just makes your actions so much more lucrative. You know, you get to do more stuff between rests because you're able to achieve more with these. I mean, your scores are going to go up slightly as a result of this expansion, I'll tell you that much. And you know, even if you can't get the pages, you can still get experience points, so it's not like you wasting the action when you get it. But there's a lot of these pages, so you can customize your translators, your actions, in a great way, and it just makes the game a bit more sandboxy. I love it. I want to include this as much as possible, this element, and this is kind of like the bulk of the expansion.
You're not sleeping with it, are you, Ray?
The other little thing is these upgradable action cards. So essentially you have 6 out of 8 of these at the start of the game, and these are basically beefed up versions of the cards you have in your starting hand. They give you like an extra bonus at the top of the card, or they give you, like, when it was normally either or when it was like a negative, they give you extra bits on top. They make them more lucrative. And the idea is that when you have the opportunity to buy an upgraded action card, which simply has, it's usually done by flipping these tokens, but you can also do it off the medicine track as well. With, what you get is you get experience from the card itself, but you get to replace one of your cards with the corresponding upgraded one from here. And you now have this permanently, and it's another way to customize your, make your strategy better. Like if you're really going to be using the, let's say, I want to do the orange track, the orange research track a lot. So, okay, I upgrade this particular card. Not only do I get income from the orange track, but I now get the ability to uplift or put down gold on the translator every time I use the card. Great. There's even one here where the one that gets you a white die, but you get workers and extra die out of your bag, now has a pre-printed 4 black symbol on it. So you could upgrade with this card. Yes, it will get you more white dice as the time goes on. You're going to have to find a way to cull them. But with this card, you'll find it infinitely easier to get pages and do the translate action for it, and stuff like that. This is a really simple addition. You just put 6 of them at the start of the game, coat them with experience, and that's it. And you just let them go. First come, first serve. But again, more ways to customize it. More ways to make the game a bit more sandboxy and, an easy thing to implement. I love it as well. And you can't separate this from the pages thing. I mean, this is a very much an all or nothing expansion. You know, you throw it all in or you don't throw it in at all. It's just the way it is. If you want to separate this expansion, again, not too difficult. You don't have to put the pages, you don't need the extension board, you don't need any of these tiles or the black dice or anything, you don't need any of these cards. All you really need to do to separate this expansion out is just simply, when you flip over a townsfolk, because all the different translator townsfolk, you do put a few extra cards in there to bolster up each deck that is in this expansion as well. If you flip over anything that requires the expansion element, then you just get rid of it and draw a new one. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Same with the scroll cards. You get a few extra scrolls to correspond with the medicine track. If you flip over one, just get rid of it and use a different one. You know, it's not too difficult to separate this out. But honestly, I mean, there are flaws with this game. I do love the mechanics that are thrown into it, but there are a couple of flaws to mention. Firstly, teaching this to people who have not played the game before can be a little bit on the tricky side. I mean, it is a lot to take in already, and then to throw in this massive set of options as well is a bit insane, especially when you get to customize your board to such a ridiculous extent. So, you know, it's going to make the game a little bit heavier for those people, so be warned. I certainly maybe don't recommend teaching it with the expansion to someone who's never played Garfield games before. I think it would just throw them for a loop.
Oh no, I've gone cross-eyed.
The other thing this game this expansion has a problem with is that it does make the game longer. If you're going to play this game, play on the casual length card. I cannot stress that enough. Play the casual length. You might think, well, that just makes the game too short. No, it doesn't. It only takes out a few cards, but you want to make it as short as possible because you can do a lot more between rests now. You can achieve more because you've got all these upgraded actions. This means you don't rest as often, which means you don't you don't accelerate the game timer as much as you used to. So now you've got the problem that because you can do more, the game slows down. And that is probably the one annoyance I have for this expansion, is the fact that it does that. I solved that, however, by playing the casual length of the game. You know, play the casual length version, and you will still get to do a load of stuff in the game before the game ends, and at least it won't take 3 hours plus to finish. Yes, trust me, it can take a bloody long time for 4 players to finish an epic length game of this when you throw in this expansion. It's kind of mind-boggling that they didn't throw in some way to make the game timer move just a tiny bit faster from getting pages and stuff. You know, the fact that this doesn't accelerate the timer does mean that if loads of players concentrate on this, then the game slows down to a crawl. Just a tiny little thing. I'm surprised that was missed in the development of this expansion. You would have thought that they would have noticed that and tried to, you know, correct themselves in a way, but I don't know, maybe a house rule or a variant will come out in the future, but still, I'm a little bit disappointed on that.
Did I miss something?
But otherwise, I friggin' love this expansion. This takes a game that I already said about Tides of Trade, that this was a 10 out of 10 game made slightly better. You know, there's only so much you could do to improve on it. This was a game that I liked a lot. I gave it an 8 out of 10 originally. With this expansion, it easily goes up to a 9 out of 10 for scholars. Like 9 out of 10. It's probably still my third favorite, although it could start to contend with Inventors, I don't know. But man, this expansion only has one flaw. The timer aspect. You have to accept it's a longer game and that you want to do casual length. With that blemish in mind though, this is one that I absolutely friggin' adore this expansion. It makes it so much more enjoyable, and I pretty much almost class it as essential. I don't know if it's fully essential, but I do love it. And as such, I don't think I can give this a 10 out of 10. But it's definitely getting a 9 out of 10. A high 9 out of 10 for this expansion because I want to use it as often as possible. It will make the game longer. It's going to be harder to teach. But if I played this without the expansion, I wouldn't be too fussed. So I don't consider it to be essential as a necessity. You must always include it. But man, if you can include it, I want it because it is just that good. The game is now more sandboxy. There's more options, more ways to customize your strategy and path to victory. And nothing about anything I just said there is a bad thing.
Yeah, Mikey, I think he likes it.
So that's it for me on this episode of The Broken Meeple. If you like what you see, then please thumb it up on YouTube and thumb it up on Board Game Geek when it goes live on the expansion page. And of course, check out the rest of the Tigris series of Beyond the Base Game expansion reviews I am doing. I've already done Wayfarers, now I've done Scholars. We now have Inventors to do, which will probably be a short video given what's in it. And the Moon Saga, which is also going to be a fairly short video. But by all means, check them in and let me know your comments below as to whether you like or love these expansions. So take care, and remember, regardless if you feel like sitting down with a good book, it's still only a game. So bye for now.